Welcome to the Niche Pursuits podcast. Today we are joined by Chris Grant with cleartheshelf.com and oachallenge.com. We're talking arbitrage. It's been a while since we've talked arbitrage on this podcast. It is a popular topic. It's a great topic if you're looking for different ways to build a side hustle and grow an online business. It's not your typical maybe content site or affiliate site that we talk about a lot here, but arbitrage has been a long-standing great model for people who are looking to earn income online with primarily with Amazon. Now, Chris walks us through basically a deep dive of arbitrage in today's world. He sees a ton of different businesses get started. That's what he's doing with his brand Clear the Shelf, which is a resource for people looking to learn more about online arbitrage. And then oachallenge.com, which is basically a 14-day challenge to get people off the ground in arbitrage. He shares the three types of arbitrage, maybe the three models, if you will. He talks about the best software and tools that you can use to make it easier to get started in arbitrage. And then he walks you through the steps to take if you want to get started with this. He talks about different failures and the biggest areas that you can make mistakes in. And along the way and throughout the interview, we just deep dive into various topics that people should be paying attention to when it comes to arbitrage. I learned a ton. I'm not necessarily certain I'm going to go out and do arbitrage, but it certainly opened my eyes to it. It's something that we've talked about before, but it's been a while, and it's a great refresher. Chris has a ton of knowledge about this and really spends a lot of his time with his brands Clear the Shelf and OA Challenge, helping different entrepreneurs start their arbitrage journey. So great interview. Even if you aren't doing arbitrage today, it's a great listen, should inspire you to think differently about the way that you are growing your online assets and your online businesses. And of course, if you're thinking about diving into arbitrage, then this is definitely an episode for you. Have you been frustrated with your Google traffic lately? Are you tired of tools that make you search through millions of keywords and require a math degree to figure out? There's an SEO tool called Rank IQ that can help. They're ranked #1 on G2 for both ease of use and customer satisfaction. Rank IQ gives you a list of the lowest competition, high traffic keywords in your niche, and they are all clear winners. When you choose one of their hand-picked keywords, their AI takes over and gives you a simple report telling you what Google wants you to cover in your blog post. Whether you have a new site or have been around for a while, Rank IQ will take your Google traffic to a whole new level. Go to rankiq.com/niche pursuits to lock yourself in at 50% off their monthly rate. I'll put this special link in the episode's description. Hey, Jared here. Today's episode is sponsored by onelittleweb.com, a bespoke link building service provider trusted by hundreds of niche site business owners just like you. One Little Web manually handpicks real and relevant sites for guest post backlinks that receive at least 5,000 monthly organic visitors from Google. The best part is that you can check the quality of the sites and approve or ask for replacements until you get the desired domains for your guest posts. So we've arranged an exclusive welcome offer for Niche Pursuits listeners, where you'll get a free DA40 backlink on your first order of a DA50 backlink. So again, you'll love One Little Web because A, they guarantee guest post backlinks with 5,000 plus monthly organic traffic sites. B, they let you review the sites beforehand and approve them. C, they write a 1,000-word, well-researched content post for every single guest post. So go to onelittleweb.com/niche pursuits to claim your free DA40 backlink today. Again, that's onelittleweb.com/niche pursuits. And welcome back to the Niche Pursuits podcast. My name is Jared Bauman. Today we have Chris Grant joining us from, oachallenge.com and cleartheshelf.com. Welcome, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so you're on brand here. You got a shirt with OA Challenge on it. And I should get a shirt with like the Niche Pursuits brand on it. You got me thinking here.
Absolutely.
It's good looking shirt. We have a bunch of fun stuff to talk about today, and I think really the bigger topic is arbitrage and online arbitrage. And we haven't talked about this in a while on the podcast, so I'm really excited to hear all of your angles and all of your kind of your depth of knowledge when it comes to arbitrage, especially in 2022 and even beyond. But before we get into those details, bring us up to speed and tell us about your background and what got you to where you're at right now with these websites.
Sure. So I've always been a bit of an entrepreneur. Maybe I had just had the entrepreneur bug. And I would say that it kind of started in grade school. I was flipping things like pizza. We would order pizza and sell it to our classmates one day a week. And we ended up making enough that I took my entire 8th grade class on a trip to New York. From doing that, and then of course we also we expanded a little bit outside of just the pizza, and we started selling snacks and cookies and crackers and all kind of things. It was sanctioned by our teachers, so we weren't running a black market pizza operation or anything. And then as I got a little bit older, I did things like shoveling snow, but I talked my brothers into doing the work, and I did the selling. And it just it went from there. I joined as a young adult. I joined my grandfather in his insurance agency, and I sold insurance for about 12 years. I tried to do a little bit differently than a lot of other insurance agents, and education was really the mantelpiece of my selling process rather than just pounding the phones or anything like that. And then as I got a little bit older and it was time to start a family, I figured that I really did not want to be out knocking on doors and selling insurance in people's homes, at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. I wanted to figure out a way to make some money at home so that I could be home with my young son, with my wife, rather than, out working as much as I did. And I came across arbitrage. I came across Jessica LaRue over on the SPI podcast. And I came across Chris Green and his books, and it opened up my eyes. And after a little stint with drop shipping, and I learned pretty quickly that wasn't the way to go, I figured out arbitrage. And then as I grew into that space, I wanted to educate people who wanted to also do this. I always I learn best by doing and then teaching, kind of cements all of that information into your brain long term. And so I started writing blog posts and social media posts and recording YouTube videos. And then things just kind of organically happened from there.
And so you have two, I say websites, but really they're more like, they're bigger than just a website, right? Like they're kind of a brand in themselves. What's the difference between oachallenge.com and then cleartheshelf.com? Why did you end up with two different areas of this arbitrage?
Sure. So cleartheshelf.com is the blog that I created first. And it was and is meant just to educate. And now, of course, it's monetized through affiliate links, and it's a way to build an email list. And then we wanted to create kind of the best arbitrage focused course out there. And Clear the Shelf doesn't really have the ring to it that OA Challenge does. And so we created OA Challenge separately to be able to kind of create a course. We do have a few blog posts over there that get some traffic and things, but it's really just kind of a course website.
Mm-hmm. Let's maybe set the stage for today. Again, like we haven't really talked about arbitrage a lot recently. There's a lot of podcast episodes in the bank on niche pursuits about arbitrage, but we haven't talked about it in a while. Maybe, sorry if this is kind of boring and basic for you, but set the stage on what arbitrage really is, especially as it relates to today's environment. I'm sure a lot of people have some ideas, but maybe give us a little bit of an overview on what arbitrage is for those who might be a little fuzzy right now.
Sure. So arbitrage is essentially buying something in one marketplace and taking it to another to sell it for a higher price because the value is more over there. Well, you see this in crypto. You'll see people arbitrage crypto prices from one exchange to another. You'll see it in financial markets and financial instruments, they'll do arbitrage. But when it comes to physical products, the exact same thing happens. You have geographical arbitrage. So, for example, maybe at your local garage sale, you can find a product that goes for more on eBay. Well, you can do the exact same thing at a larger scale, finding things from Walmart, Target, and the thousands of other sites that exist. And over on Amazon, it ends up going for more because the marketplace is larger, the number of buyers is larger, and people are really, they're kind of tuned into the whole, I want to get it in 48 hours or less, and Amazon is still the leader of that. And so people pay for the convenience and not having to go to the store and things like that. And so we leverage that opportunity.
Talk about some of your success in arbitrage, maybe as it leads up to some of the challenges that you're doing now. But like, what's your background in arbitrage of late, and what kind of successes are you having?
So I try to run a pretty boring arbitrage business.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I know that's not great for a podcast or anything like that, but I look for products that make, $3 to $5 in profit that I can sell, 10 or 20 times a month. And once you build up a bank of those, and you have, 50 or 100 or 200 different SKUs like that you can sell pretty consistently, you have kind of a boring business that you get to make sure is just running, over and over again. Now, there are some more exciting times, Q4 and the Christmas and holiday season. There will be times when, I kind of forego all the boring stuff and you look for the items that are selling incredibly hot, and you can, sell them for big markups. And then there's been a lot of opportunities over the past 2 years with supply chain issues.
Yeah.
Uh, some people don't particularly care for that, but it's just the nature of arbitrage. And so you can find things that maybe have some supply chain issues, but there's plenty in your local area, and you can take it to a much larger marketplace. Our last big hit was an over-the-counter supplement for memory, and they were having some supply chain issues. My local marketplace was overstocked because in Florida, what do we have? We've got a lot of older folks, so they kind of flooded this area with the product, but other parts of the country didn't have it and they wanted it. And so over the course of about 3 months, we sold about $150,000 worth of just this over-the-counter supplement. And it was great profit. It was actually kind of fun going down and hunting it locally, and how we could get it online. But it was a great flip.
What are some of the maybe unique challenges that people doing arbitrage today face that maybe didn't exist a couple years ago, 5, 10 years ago? What are the big challenges people have right now?
I think some of the big challenges are that there is more competition than there was 5 years ago. It's also the nature of the business. Amazon is, I like to call them an angsty teen. They're kind of finding they know how to walk, they know how to run and jump, but there's still some growing pains, and we've seen
Uh-huh.
that recently with the kind of they're overdoing it with warehouse space and things like that. And that kind of all trickles down to the seller, and we've got to figure out inventory management. We have to figure out whether or not Amazon is accepting as much inventory as you want to send in, and we also need to figure out how to make sure that our products are going to sell through and not sit on the shelves, because Amazon doesn't want that. They want your product to turn over as quickly as possible. 5 years ago, that wasn't the case. 5 years ago, you could just send as much of anything as you wanted to Amazon. It could sit there for 3 years, and if it sold, it sold. If it didn't, it could just continue to sit there. And so we're learning that you can't just be a reseller anymore. You have to be a business owner. You need to be, an entrepreneur. You need to have your finger on the pulse of inventory management and cash flow and all of those things.
I want to get into some of the stuff you're doing at OA Challenge and Clear the Shelf. But I want maybe if I could just ask you a couple more questions about this arbitrage that you're doing right now before we get into kind of the educating part of it. You talked about Amazon. Are you I mean, I'm guessing yes, given what you've said so far, but you're utilizing Amazon to do your arbitrage sales. And there's a couple different models, right? Like you can send your product up to Amazon and their warehouse and they'll fulfill it. A lot of people fulfilled by Amazon FBA. You hear that buzzword a lot, obviously, because people have these FBA stores and these FBA accounts. There's also, you can just do straight arbitrage where you're selling it, but you don't actually send it to Amazon to fulfill. You're fulfilling it out of your garage, right? And shipping it and that sort of stuff. Maybe talk a bit about the different arbitrage models, and then what you see working today and what you talk a lot about in your educational side of things.
Sure. So there are really three different models of arbitrage. There's retail arbitrage, where you actually go and you pound the pavement. You go into the Walmarts, the Targets, the Kohl's, and you buy product that's sitting on the shelf, and you either send it to Amazon FBA, allow them to pick, pack, and ship it, or you can fulfill it yourself. That's called merchant fulfilling or MFing, and you ship it from your own home, your own warehouse, things like that. Mm-hmm. Then there's online arbitrage. And I focus on online arbitrage because I believe that it's a model that has a higher chance of scaling, because I don't have to spend all that time in the car pounding the pavement and that kind of thing. I can also utilize a prep center rather than having to touch the product myself. I send it off to a prep center. They put it in poly bags. They put the Amazon stickers on it, put it in a bag, and ship it off to Amazon. But on occasion, I will merchant fulfill some items that I buy online. If they're selling really fast, if they're very small and easy to put into an envelope or a padded mailer or something, I'll do that if necessary. Or maybe I want to ship some hazmat products that I just don't want Amazon to have to sit on. And then there's wholesale. And a lot of people think it's different than online or retail arbitrage. But it is arbitrage. You're buying from a distributor, you're buying directly from a brand, and then you're selling that on Amazon for a higher price. The biggest difference is there you're not necessarily just clicking a mouse. You need to be able to build relationships with the people on the other end of the phone at distributors and things like that. But those are really the three models of arbitrage that happen right now.
And you're focused mostly on the online arbitrage model because of the scale and that sort of thing. Is that generally a good beginner tactic as well? Let's say someone listening is thinking about arbitrage. Is there a better one to start with, or is that something that you land on the online model more after you have experience with the other two?
I think both retail and online are both the same. The thing that I experience is a lot of people think that retail arbitrage is easier. And I understand that you can go out, you can touch a physical product, you can scan it, you can look it up on Amazon, and it feels easier. And what I see happen is that people go to, say, Walmart.com or Target.com, and rather they get, the brain just stops working. They don't treat it like they're in an aisle at a grocery store or a retail store like you should, and it feels harder, although it's not. So if you don't want to have to go driving around all over the place looking for things, and you want to have a much larger pool of sources, I think online arbitrage really is the place to be.
So on cleartheshelf.com, you have a lot of content on there. I was kind of nosing around last night as I prepared for this. A lot of what you're talking about is, the different softwares and tools that are available to help out arbitragers. It sounds like a very, manual process. It sounds like a lot of work. What are some of the tools that you use to make this process easier or more scalable? What are some of your favorites? I mean, I was reading about some last night. I kind of went down the rabbit hole. There's some really cool softwares out there to help people out.
Yeah, absolutely. So my absolute favorite is a software called Keepa. And that's a made by a German company. And what they do is they kind of give you the cheat codes to figuring out what sells well on Amazon. They track bestseller rank, they track variations, they track historical price. So using all of this data, we can figure out pretty well whether or not something is going to continue to sell well in the future, and whether or not the price is going to hold, or if it's going to, go back to what it was historically. And so once you learn Keepa, kind of Amazon is your oyster. Outside of that, there's tactical arbitrage, because sourcing products, it can be a manual and tedious task. And you can either do it yourself or you can have a virtual assistant do it. But looking for that shampoo on Target and comparing it to the one on Amazon, it is boring. So that's where tactical arbitrage comes into play. It will go and it will look through all of those products at 400 different stores, and it will find the match on Amazon that is profitable and fits your filters. And it just allows you to kind of leverage automation in your business. So that one, I think, is absolutely huge if people really want to scale up and use software to do it rather than people. And then the third, one of my favorite tools, is probably RevSeller. It's really a glorified profit calculator, but it's something that just makes your life so much easier, allows you to keep a few extra tabs closed, and let you know how profitable something is based on your purchase price. And then it allows you to take it to Google Sheets and all kinds of stuff to be able to store that information for later. But those three things make you extremely dangerous as an arbitrager.
What kind of, again, just trying to think through someone who is interested in arbitrage, what kind of workload or amount of time does it take for someone to get started in this? I'm going to hit you with a couple. What kind of workload? What kind of budget? And then, what can people expect? Maybe it's a time frame, and maybe it's a certain amount of money after a period of time. Like, just give people kind of an idea. And again, you work with so many people with your resources that I'm guessing you probably have some insights into these types of things for people getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk workload. The workload can really vary, and it depends. Some people really just want this as a side hustle. And they want to spend 2 hours a day or maybe 8 hours over a weekend. And that's fine. That's absolutely okay. If you could spend 2 hours a day or an hour a day and be able to make an extra $1,000 a month, for a lot of folks, that's life-changing money. And I think that's, noble. That's why I kind of love doing this, because getting people to that first 1,000 is really gratifying. But then there are folks I know personally who have built 8-figure businesses doing online arbitrage. And, they typically run it much more like a big operation where they have multiple people sourcing. They could be virtual assistants or, team members they have locally. They themselves are putting in 40 to 50 hours a week. Maybe they're running a warehouse where they prep and ship their own products. So the workload can vary greatly just depending on what your goals and aspirations are. Now, I think the next question was, what kind of budget should you?
Yeah, I'm thinking of inventory. It's not, a lot of people listening are going to be familiar with starting a website and a content site or an affiliate marketing website. And one of the best things about that is you really don't have to put any money in except for hosting, and a domain name. So it's like $20, $30 a year at its lowest. I imagine there's probably some inventory costs though going into this.
Yeah, there are. So you're going to have a $40 a month subscription to Amazon. They do charge $40 a month. And then you don't really need anything else other than Keepa, and that's about $20 a month. For inventory, I really like to tell people that, $500 should get you started. You can start with less if you just want to verify that the model works. Or you can start with more if you have seen enough other people do this and you're really ready to get going. Of course, the more capital you have, the faster you can scale, especially if you don't need to pull out any profits or anything like that. But I would say $500 is really what you need to get going.
Okay, $500. Anything from a couple hours a week, or sorry, you said a couple hours. Did you say a couple hours a week or a couple hours a day? I'm sorry.
I mean, you could do if it's just a true side hustle. If you spent 6 or 8 hours over a weekend, I think you could get to $1,000 a month in profit kind of business.
Okay. And what kind of time frame? Again, websites, something that we talk about a lot here. You're looking at realistically nowadays, unless you're really going aggressive, probably 9 months to a year before you're making, $500, $1,000 a month. And these are such wide ranges, but with an arbitrage type of thing, with people putting time in, what type of timeframes are there to start making, we'll call it money with air quotes?
Yeah. So I think if you were going to start with $500 and it was just an 8 to 10 hour a week side hustle, I think you could be to $1,000 in profit within 3 to 6 months, depending on how good your sourcing decisions are, and making sure that your inventory turns over and that you're reinvesting the profits on the front end right back into inventory.
That's a great range. I realize, don't worry, we're not going to hold you to that. These are wide ranges. These are wide ranges. I think that just gives people a really great idea. I mean, a lot of people who listen to this podcast are trying to find ways to spend some time on the side and make money. What are some of the maybe success stories you've seen, or strategies in successful people that you've seen that you can share? Maybe some, I hate to use the word shortcuts, right? But ways to skip failing on some obvious points. Maybe you could share a couple of those with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest keys is actually networking and not being afraid to maybe look a little bit silly on the front end and get some questions answered, and pay attention to what people who are successful are currently doing. The Amazon community is fairly large. We run a Facebook group with about 50,000 people in it, and there are several that are that big. And the Amazon community is also fairly giving. They're happy to answer questions and kind of let you know maybe where their stumbling blocks were, so that you don't have to do the exact same thing. So if you really spend some time learning on the front end, and then 2, you learn how to use Keepa and you learn how to make a proper sourcing decision. Listen, no one bats 1,000, but you could bat 800, 850, selling on Amazon, and that will all come from making proper sourcing decisions. So learning that up front is probably the biggest key.
Do you see people end up with like a lot of inventory because they made bad decisions, or also getting the arbitrage portion right, and so they end up having to sell at a loss? Like, are these real concerns, or are they fairly mitigable? That's probably not a word. Manageable. Are they able to be mitigated? How's that?
That's perfect. They are able to be mitigated for the most part, in my opinion. I see people end up with, storage containers worth of inventory more often in the private label space. Right. Not that it's a bad space to be in. It's more difficult. It's more competitive. And if you get one thing wrong, well, it can be a house of cards. The great thing about arbitrage is that I can take a series of small bets. And so let's say rather than, have all my chips on 21 black, well, I can have 50 different chips out there, and maybe 10 of them don't hit, but the other 40 do. And so that's what I really like about the arbitrage model. I could buy a single unit of many different SKUs and test out to see what works, and then hopefully kind of manage my losses if there are any.
It makes total sense. Let's transition and talk a bit about what you're doing at OA Challenge. I'm going to guess this is more, focused at helping people get started, but tell us what's behind OA Challenge and why it's, different than Clear the Shelf. You talked about how Clear the Shelf is kind of your more resource section, your blog where you do the education, but why would I end up over at OA Challenge instead of cleartheshelf.com if I'm looking at arbitrage?
Sure. The biggest thing about OA Challenge is it's a 14-day live course, is essentially what it is. And the thing that we saw is that people did have trouble sourcing. They were worried about making mistakes. They were worried they didn't understand how to interpret a Keepa graph. And I know not everyone knows what that is, but essentially, it's kind of like a stock market ticker for products on Amazon. Okay. And it's pretty easy to see. Well, heck, everyone's looking at their crypto charts, all the time, and you can
Right.
see the ups and downs. Well, Keepa gives us that same information for Amazon products based on price and how well it sells and things like that. And people were not fully utilizing that. And it really is the backbone of this type of business. So we came up with a 14-day program to help people through all of the hoops that you really need to jump through to become really good at arbitrage. And that's why OA Challenge was created.
Okay. Is this a free challenge, or is this something where people can, is it like a paid thing?
It is a paid challenge. We keep it fairly inexpensive compared to a lot of courses out there. And then we do have some offshoots, a lot of free information in other places for people to be able to take advantage of as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. And at the end, people, I mean, is that a kind of course where you kind of have all the tools you need to understand the mechanisms of what it looks like to be successful in arbitrage?
Yeah, that was the goal. Be able to help people understand the entire process from tools, knowing what to buy, when to buy, how to buy, doing it manually, leveraging automation, leveraging tools. That's why it's so long. It is 14 days. We want to make sure we cover all of that.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to ask what might be a pretty dumb question, and I'm going to kind of fall on the sword here. I'm guessing there's a section of our listeners that are thinking this. So I'm going to fall on the sword and ask the question anyways, that perhaps a lot of people who are newer to the podcast might not have. I grew up listening to the Niche Pursuits podcast, believe it or not, for a long time. And arbitrage for me, I remember Spencer interviewing some people about arbitrage. I remember Pat Flynn interviewing some people about arbitrage. I remember this was probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. These are the days of Jungle Scout. These are the days of walking around grocery stores and Walmarts with scanners. What's different about arbitrage today? What do I need to remove from my mind about what arbitrage used to look like? And because you're talking about some really advanced softwares you can utilize now, but you're still also talking about some of the similar concepts. Like for people who've been around arbitrage for a while but never dove in, what do they need to shift their mindset from how things maybe used to be or how things were?
So the way arbitrage used to be is it was really kind of it was a big kid treasure hunt. You could go to retail stores and you could pick up just about any product, and it was probably profitable on Amazon. And that's just because it was new. There weren't as many sellers, but the marketplace has matured, and larger businesses, 7-figure, 8-figure businesses have come in to do this kind of model on Amazon, and they realize, well, I don't necessarily need the margins that we used to have. And Amazon has also realized this, and they have, fair pricing policies and things like that. They don't want you taking advantage of the fact that you can do arbitrage. They understand you have to make a profit, but, making $300 on something you buy for $20 just isn't the case anymore. So you have to make up for that in volume, in inventory turn, and things like that now that the market has become more mature. But that opportunity is really great. And here's why I say that. Most retail stores, your Walmart, your Targets, they aim to turn inventory 4 times per year.
Oh, okay.
Well, as an Amazon seller, you can turn your inventory once a month, maybe twice a month if you're really, really fast or have really fast movers. And so now you have Being able to turn your inventory 12 times in a year compared to 4 times in a year allows you to take those smaller margins, but still be able to build quite a profitable business over time.
It reminds me of a story. When I was in college, I was waiting tables, and our manager was all about the number of times we could turn a table in a night. And he would talk about how, hey, like the difference between 2 turns and 3 turns is 50% more revenue. The difference between 3 turns and 4 turns is 33% more revenue. And, obviously you're going to make more tips. And so he was really establishing that value. That was my first analogy to understanding really what inventory management really was about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that does help a lot. So you mentioned the 3 models, the 3 methods with arbitrage. You talked about, hopefully I get this right. I took notes: the retail model, the online model, and the wholesale model.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of dove more in depth into the online model. That's the one that out of all 3 you kind of recommend, you prefer, you spend most of your time in, with some similarities to the retail model. Now, we didn't really talk about wholesaling much. And I want to dovetail it into some of the conversations we have had on the podcast of late, where we have had several people on over the past 6 months to 12 months and have talked about, ranging from creating your own product to wholesaling a product and white labeling it, to developing a product that fits maybe the brand you have a website for. So if you could dive a little bit more into wholesale and some of the upsides of going down that road, and also maybe some of the risks that cause you not to recommend it as much.
Sure. So I think wholesale is great. I don't know that it's for everybody, because I do believe that to do it properly, you need to be willing to build relationships. There are people who, either run or work for distributors, and it's best not to just cold email folks. It's really best to dial for dollars in that kind of business. Now, the hurdle is usually a little bit higher. Number one, not all distributors want Amazon sellers. And number 2, sometimes you have to buy a little bit larger. So for example, if I'm doing online arbitrage, I could buy one $5 item from Target, and I wouldn't get free shipping if I just bought one $5 item. But let's say I buy it online, I pick it up in store, and I can then send that to Amazon, and I can verify that the model works. It sells, I made a profit, and there we go. Well, with wholesale, working with a distributor, something like that, you typically need to buy some larger quantities.
Right.
Maybe some of them allow you to buy a case at a time. Maybe some of them have a $250 minimum. Some of them I know have $1,000 or a $5,000 minimum. So it just depends where you get in there. And so that hurdle can be a little bit more, because typically you need a little bit more cash. They're also going to want things like a resale certificate, and they're going to want to know that you have an LLC, and that your business is set up properly. But other than that, it really is a great model, because you can go back to the same source over and over and over again, until the life cycle of a product is ended.
So the risk really is well, at least one of the really big risks is you kind of have to buy in bigger bulk. And so you need to understand, are you going to be able to move this product or not? Otherwise, you could end up with a box full of vacuum cleaners or DVDs out in your garage for a long time.
Exactly. Yeah. And can you move it profitably? Because just because you order from, a distributor does not necessarily mean that the price on Amazon's going to stay the same.
Oh, that's true. If you don't move it quickly, it could end up, not keeping its price or things like that.
Yeah.
Let's see. A couple of years back, Spencer talked on this podcast about how he had a website that was in a certain niche. And then he dovetailed, and I believe I have this right, an Amazon store that would wholesale products in the same niche. And so he would basically recommend his products via his website, and then send them over for them to purchase from Amazon. And then I think he would also get an affiliate commission for recommending the Amazon product. Do you see that happening very often nowadays? Is that something that you still think is viable, especially for people who have sites that drive traffic organically, maybe 25,000, 50,000, 100,000 visitors a month?
Yeah. I can see that still working perfectly. Let's say, for example, that you decide to start a website in the in the pet space, or maybe the dog space in particular.
Okay.
If you wrote some really great articles about things that people with dogs are looking for, you could absolutely then, buy products at wholesale or buy products from AliExpress or wherever you might want to do, and have those on Amazon and drive the traffic to Amazon yourself. And you can still use affiliate links, and then you kind of get to double dip where you make an affiliate commission and they're buying your own product. But yeah, that would absolutely work. And people in like the private label space, they are working on driving their own traffic in a lot of cases to make sure to get more eyeballs on their products.
So going down that road, like let's say that we are able to rank for things like dog collars. I'm imagining you could probably buy dog collars in the online arbitrage model and then send that to your store on Amazon. Maybe if you can't find it, you just send it to somebody else's product. Or you could even wholesale. Let's say you consistently have enough traffic to where you're recommending enough product to sell. Like you could even go down the wholesale route and line up a distributor through the networking methods you talked about and actually maybe create your own line. Would that be the way to think about it?
Yeah, I think there is something you could do there. Absolutely.
Okay. Interesting things to think about. I know a lot of people have a lot of traffic, and certainly the argument these days is that Amazon isn't paying the commissions that they used to, and it can be very frustrating for people. One solution is to go get private affiliate relationships or deals on these products, but another solution could very well be a lot of the things you're talking about here today.
Yeah, if so for example, let's say you have a site that's already has a lot of traffic, and where the people are going, where you're sending the folks, and maybe you even know what is converting. Well, that would be a very prime opportunity, in my opinion, to either then have your own product so you can drive the traffic to your own product, or have a product that works well and you wholesale it or even online arbitrage it and be able to push people there, and you'd be able to make up for those reduced affiliate commissions pretty easily.
Yeah. That's exciting and intriguing.
Yeah.
Gets my mind going. That's for sure. I personally have a website or two that kind of drives a lot of traffic, but much of the affiliate income does come from Amazon, and it's pretty small. But so definitely a lot of opportunities here. Whew, already a lot we've gone through here. I wanted to ask you about maybe some of the biggest mistakes that we have touched on this a little bit, but I just want to give you an opportunity, like maybe some from your experiences, some of the biggest mistakes or biggest mistake you've made along the way when it comes to arbitrage.
Sure. The biggest mistakes that, I don't know, I have a history of this. So it's always been going too deep, getting started. The worst mistake I ever made was spending $5,000 on, like one set of products. And then, of course, kind of the market for that product just falling out from under me, and then only being able to get 1,500 of that back. That one stung quite a bit.
Ooh, yeah.
And so I think that is the single biggest mistake. You find a product and it looks really good, but you haven't tested it, and you decide to buy 50 or 100, and then things fall apart and you have to sell it for a loss. That really, that's a huge blow to your ego, your confidence, and it kind of makes people want to quit. That's the biggest mistake in my opinion. I really like the fact that you can take a series of small bets, and as long as you hit 70-80% of them, you should have a profitable business.
Good advice. That's good advice. Well, you said it a number of different ways. Like that's the big challenge there is figuring out what sells and what doesn't, learning how to use some of that software and those tools to understand how not to end up with a lot of product that isn't going to move.
Mm-hmm.
How have you grown your brand? How have you ended up growing to the number of people you have going through your course and visiting Clear the Shelf? I mean, let's transition a bit and just talk about how you've grown these brands. We're all, in some way trying to grow different online resources ourselves. Talk about what you've done to grow and what's worked so well for you.
Sure. So, and I don't think this is necessarily groundbreaking, but the biggest thing is being authentic. We don't we don't run ads or anything like that where we've got a Lambo in the background, or we're driving down the freeway in a Tesla and it's driving itself or anything like that. And we also, I try not to sugarcoat this. You're not one product away from being a millionaire. You're not one more funnel away from being a millionaire. It's hard work, and the hard work compounds over time. And as long as you kind of put in the reps and do the work, it should work out. As long as you give it enough of a time horizon. And that's really about it. And we put out a ton of educational content and answer questions that people are asking. And that's been the way that I've grown, our Clear the Shelf, our OA challenge, is just by, I don't know, not serving people a line of bull just to try to sell something.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now you have cleartheshelf.com. So that's kind of the place for people to go if they just want to maybe, go down the rabbit hole, as I would say.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely what I did last night. You have OA Challenge. That's probably more for people who are ready to jump in and ready to try this out. You also have, I didn't look, you have a YouTube channel, right? What's in the YouTube channel?
So the YouTube channel is really just I'm much better at video than I am at writing.
Okay.
And
you and me both.
Yeah. So I tend to make more YouTube videos. And people have questions. It's usually much easier for me to be able to share a screen and say, here's how to do this, or here's what I think about it. And so we've made a lot of videos about things like tactical arbitrage, videos on Keepa, on sourcing, all kinds of stuff that helps the Amazon seller. And then we have a podcast now, and so we're hosting that over on YouTube as well. And it's been a fun learning experience over on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube is a whole nother ball game to grow a business on, right?
Yeah,
that's great. So, what would you recommend are next steps for people interested in, determining if arbitrage is a good side hustle for them? Walk us through maybe some of the most important considerations for people taking next steps.
Sure. So the first thing is you should gather some information, whether that's my blog or my YouTube channel. There's also a lot of really great communities out there. You're going to find them on Instagram. You're going to find some on TikTok. You're going to find a lot of Facebook groups. Some of them are not great, but there's several that are really good, and you want to find those ones. They're typically a little bit larger. And then go ask questions, read old posts, read blog posts, watch YouTube videos, see if it's actually for you before, going and taking the next step. And then if you are ready to take the next step, just embrace the suck and do the work that's required to get going. And you should see some results.
That's great. That's great. And again, I mean, this has been a great deep dive, but also a great overview for people who just want to understand what arbitrage looks like in today's environment. And some of it's changed a lot. Some of it really hasn't changed much at all from what it sounds like.
Yeah. A lot of stuff is the same. Arbitrage has been around for a long time. It's going to be here for a long time. And the principles and strategies that have always worked will always work, but the marketplaces might change over time.
Last question from me on this. Again, we talk a lot about this on this podcast in terms of what are future challengers to the different types of online businesses we're looking at. In terms of arbitrage and in terms of what's looking forward, we all know Amazon can be very volatile in general. And it seems like a lot of arbitrage lands and rests on Amazon's marketplace. But what are any potential future challengers to the arbitrage model that you might see coming down the pipeline?
That's a great question. There's legislation that could become a challenge down the road. I want to say there's a piece of legislation, I think it's called FAIR or Online Choice Act or something like that. And it's really meant to kind of keep Amazon from competing with their own sellers. Because they do that, you know. And of course, Amazon doesn't want that to happen. So is it possible that Amazon is split up into a third-party marketplace and then their own, products on another site in the future. It's possible. No way for me to have a crystal ball and know for sure. And then there is going to be more competition down the road. If there's the possibility to make money, there is, competition finds its way in, no matter what space you're in. So the willingness to grow and mature along with the marketplace and how the marketplace is doing is something that people, I think, need to be ready for. And then finally, maybe we're on the cusp of a recession. And if that actually comes to fruition, I think people need to be ready to pivot. The nice thing is as small business owners, we can usually pivot a little bit quicker than, the retail behemoths. And you might need to focus on, more things like grocery category and things that people need to buy rather than what they want to buy.
Right.
But there should still be plenty of opportunity there.
Those are good tips. Yeah. And that's, probably true. Even without a major recession, there's all sorts of different, supply chain issues, for example.
Mm-hmm.
These micro challenges that come up on a yearly basis or a monthly basis. So
exactly.
Well, Chris, this has been quite the deep dive. I have personally just been enthralled with this whole entire hour we've spent together. So I could ask you a bunch more questions, but they'd be much more personal related in terms of how to get started in this. It's fascinating. Is there anything I didn't ask you about that you think is really important that people hear about? Something that I might have glossed over that you want to double down on just before we close here?
No, man. I think you really covered it. I appreciate it.
We don't have to say that, just because I'm the interviewer.
No, I know. No, you didn't. Okay. That was awesome.
No, it's good. So, and for people that want to follow along with what you're doing, obviously we can direct them to cleartheshelf.com, more of the resource side of what you do, the blog side, the content side, OAchallenge.com. If people are ready to get going and they want someone to kind of, hold their hand a bit, that's a 14-day challenge that you do that people can sign up for. Any other places people can follow along with what you have going on?
My YouTube channel is great. We do release a weekly podcast there and on, all the major platforms, just like you guys do. And I'm trying to be more active on Instagram. I know that people prefer pictures and short videos, so trying to get a lot better there. And I'm at Clear the Shelf over on Instagram as well.
Okay, good. Okay, we'll include all that stuff in the show notes. And hey, thank you so much for joining us today. And like I said, loved the conversation about arbitrage and loved getting to hear about where you're succeeding and where you're seeing opportunity for people.
And thanks so much for having me, man. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, good. Until we talk next time. See ya. Have you been frustrated with your Google traffic lately? Are you tired of tools that make you search through millions of keywords and require a math degree to figure out? There's an SEO tool called Rank IQ that can help. They're ranked number 1 on G2 for both ease of use and customer satisfaction. Rank IQ gives you a list of the lowest competition, high traffic keywords in your niche, and they're all clear winners. When you choose one of their handpicked keywords, their AI takes over and gives you a simple report telling you what Google wants you to cover in your blog post. Whether you have a new site or have been around for a while, Rank IQ will take your Google traffic to a whole new level. Go to rankiq.com/niche pursuits to lock yourself in at 50% off their monthly rate. I'll put this special link in the episode's description. Hey, Jared here. Today's episode is sponsored by onelittleweb.com, a bespoke link building service provider trusted by hundreds of niche site business owners just like you. One Little Web manually handpicks real and relevant sites for guest post backlinks that receive at least 5,000 monthly organic visitors from Google. The best part is that you can check the quality of the sites and approve or ask for replacements until you get the desired domains for your guest posts. So we've arranged an exclusive welcome offer for Niche Pursuits listeners, where you'll get a free DA40 backlink on your first order of a DA50 backlink. So again, you'll love One Little Web because A, they guarantee guest post backlinks with 5,000 plus monthly organic traffic sites. B, they let you review the sites beforehand and approve them. C, they write a 1,000 word, well-researched content post for every single guest post. So go to onelittleweb.com/niche pursuits to claim your free DA40 backlink today. Again, that's onelittleweb.com/niche pursuits.